What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. So if you have one of these and you have kids, you definitely need one of these. So on this episode today, I'm going to show you how to assemble, and we're going to review at the end this Can-Am Maverick XRS Turbo RR. So stay tuned. I like to start out with the ride-on upside down on top of the box. It makes it a little bit easier to work on. Have somebody help you lift it up because it does weigh a little bit. I always make sure I lay out all my parts and make sure that I have everything that I need. I have my instruction manual, and the first thing we're going to start on is the steering. So here's the tools you're going to need for assembly. You're going to need a Phillips screwdriver, a 10mm socket, or an adjustable wrench, doesn't really matter, a pair of scissors or something to clip zip ties with, and a flathead screwdriver. So in the front, you'll find that there are zip ties holding everything together for shipping. I'm going to go ahead and clip those zip ties, and you can go ahead and throw those out. Next, we're going to turn out the axles with the motors and make sure that they are pointing out. The next part is to insert this steering motor into the green slot right here, and you can just turn this if you need to line it up. Once you have that installed, go ahead and remove this little bolt and nut. This is a little 10mm nut, and I'm just going to use a Phillips screwdriver underneath. Once I have that removed, we're going to line up the two holes, insert that bolt through, and put the nut back on. And go ahead and tighten it. Now also, you do not need to make this extremely tight. This is a nylon nut, so it does kind of lock on by itself. Just make sure you have free movement. And then in your hardware bag, you'll find that there's some washers and a cotter pin. So you're going to need one washer and one cotter pin. The shaft that we just inserted into the green slot, we're going to put a washer on it. And we're going to put in a cotter pin through the little hole in the shaft. And now you could either use your fingers or you can use some pliers and just bend that cotter pin at the end. Basically so the shaft doesn't come out of there. And that's what it looks like. The next step is to install the wheels. All four wheels are the same on the four-wheel drive model. We're gonna use the little tool that they include. They include two of these, and we're gonna need both of them actually. We're gonna need another one for a step later, but we're gonna use this to just remove this nut. Put the gear inside the gearbox. Make sure it goes on there. Next step is to install the washer and the nylon nut. And you can use the tool included to tighten it up. Don't need this extremely tight. It does sit on a bearing, so you can get it nice and snug. You're not going to be able to test it since this has a motor that is engaged. You're not going to be able to spin it and see if it spins freely. So use your best judgment on how tight it should be, which it should be snug like this. For the next step, we're going to be installing the wheel covers. And in your hardware bag, you have screws that are 2 different sizes. So there's a bigger one and a smaller one. We're going to be using 4 smaller ones for each wheel. So the next step, we're going to use the rear axle and we're going to take the nuts off of it. And we're going to put it through this hole right here. You might have to kind of work it in there because the way that it sits, the springs in there are kind of pushing onto the area that it has to go through. So you might have to wiggle it in there a little bit. There you go. Next, you're going to need your drive motors. You're going to need both of them on each side. So they are labeled which side is which. And on the actual ride-on, there is a little indentation here that shows that it's the right side. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect. Make sure we tuck that wire in. Slide it on the shaft. Tuck the motor inside. Tuck it inside, make sure that the gearbox is nice and flush with a trailing arm. Same thing on the other side. And the next step is we're going to install the wheels. So I'm going to put the wheel on, same way as we did in the front. Now if you don't have enough axle showing through, go ahead and push a little bit out from the other side. Make sure you install a washer. We're going to reinstall the nut that came off of the axle. So we're just going to do finger tight right now, and the same thing on the other side. Once again, if you don't have enough axle, just push it through from the other side and you should have enough. Install the washer and the lock nut. So this is the part where we use both of the included little tools. We're going to go ahead and tighten them both at the same time from each side, and that's in order, and that's basically because that axle will freely spin. We need to tighten it both at the same time. Now if you can't reach both sides at the same time, you can always ask someone else to help you. Once again, the wheel cover's in the back. Now that we got it the right side up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to hook up the battery. And there's actually two 24-volt batteries in here, and they are both connected together and they both work, so you basically get extended runtime. So you could either hook up both of the batteries at the same time and just have it hooked up and use the charging port that's right here, or run it on one battery, and when this battery goes low, you can disconnect that one and put in the freshly charged battery. So essentially, you could charge one battery as you're driving the other one. Now, not to make things complicated, the way that I'm gonna run it is both batteries connected, and to charge it, you simply plug in right here. Although, if you do want to charge the batteries outside the car, you're fully able to do that because each battery has its own charging port right here on top. I'll remove this cover right here to show you how this battery is accessible. So basically, there are 4 screws that are holding this seat mount. If you lift that out, you will see that there is an identical battery over here. And like I said, they both have the charging ports. Essentially, if you want to run one battery while the other one is charging, you are fully able to do that. And then swap out, put one on the charger, run the other battery. You're fully able to do that. To remove the batteries, there are 4 silver screws right here on each corner of the battery that pull the battery down. Once you get those screws removed, you just lift the battery out and plug in to charge. Now in my case, I'm going to be running both batteries at the same time. So what I'm going to do is find the plug to the car. It's a red plug, the only one that's unplugged, connected to the other side of it. All right, so the passenger and driver seat are slightly different. This one has little tab type of screw to kind of hold it into place. And the way you install it is these little hooks right here. So you hook it on, push it down, and use a flathead screwdriver to push the tabs in, and just a quarter of a turn to keep it in. Now that's the same way you access that battery, is you basically turn this and take the seat out in order to do that. Driver's seat is pretty simple too. There's a little pull tab for adjusting the seat, and all you're doing is sliding the seat in. You can push it back to adjust it, pull it back using that little tab. Now if you have to remove the battery on that side, if you are going to be running a single battery at a time, this is the same way you remove the seat to access that battery cover. Is just pull on the tab and pull the seat out. All right, for the next step, we're going to be installing the steering wheel, and it has a plug. It has a little nut that's recessed in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a Phillips screwdriver on the other side and remove this screw. And that's going to be put in to the little hole that's right here on the steering shaft. I'm going to connect the wire. Tuck this wire back into the column. Install the steering. And we're going to reinsert that screw. Might have to adjust the steering wheel a little bit to get it to go through. I'm going to use this screwdriver. We're going to use the screwdriver to tighten it up. So next step is to install the front crossbar, and we're basically just sliding this in. So here on the front, we're also using the smaller screws just to attach the crossbar. For the next step, we're gonna assemble the roll cage, and this is the outsides. So we're gonna swap it around. So you have the inside and the inside. Attach the rear crossbar. And it just clips in. Once you have it clipped in, we're going to install 4 of the smaller screws right in here. So basically you have the little door latch here that opens up, then you press the button and the bar goes up, your kid could get in. Then you close it, close the door. All right, so the next step is pretty important. Here's a parent remote that you get to use. You get a little instruction manual right here. You're gonna need 2 AAA batteries and the screwdriver. Pop this little guy open. And there you have it. So you have your forward, reverse, your speed select. You also have your parking brake that basically locks it out, and then your steering. This might not be shipped connected to the car. So I'll show you how to hook that up real quick. Make sure your car is off, and you have a little selector here that you could actually lock out, and that is on manual or remote. So we're gonna put it on remote, and what we're gonna do is press and hold the remote button in the middle and turn the car on. And there you have it. That is basically how you hook that up. You have two choices. You could either have the car run manually, meaning your kid is driving the car, or the other option is you use the remote, and that's basically giving you the ability to drive the car for them if they can't do it just yet. Now that we got the remote hooked up, I'm going to show you around the car. There's a couple things I want to point out before you get started driving her around. Here's the first thing that I want to show. Here is the charger. So this is a 24-volt charger. Make sure if you have other ride-on toys that you have this marked as a 24-volt charger so you don't mix up the two. And make sure you never use a 12-volt charger on here. This does come with is a little indicator light. So the little indicator light's gonna show you when it's done charging. It's red when it's charging and it's green when it's fully charged. As I mentioned before, you could charge both of the batteries at the same time by plugging in over here. As soon as you plug in the charger, it will kill your car completely, so you're not able to run any lights or turn it on. As soon as you unplug your charger, you can turn it on with a switch. On the dash here, it's pretty nice. It's actually very similar to the real deal. You have the power button. You have your horn button, you have music button. This little built-in MP3 player's got different modes. It's got music, it's got some stories on there and some other things. You can also use a micro SD card to put in your own music in here. The easiest thing that I have found was to get a small USB drive that you just plug in here and leave it in, and that basically should take care of all your music needs. This is the shifter, so down for reverse, middle is park, and top is drive. And then you have a light switch here. Overall, it's pretty simple and pretty realistic looking, really. So as you can tell, the assembly is fairly simple. All we have to do is charge it up and take it out riding. Quick thing I want to mention, you might want to keep these just in case you need to use them again, and also don't be alarmed if you have a little bit of screws and nuts left over. These are spares that you can use if you lose some. After you're done charging, make sure you familiarize yourself with the remote and how it works, and you are ready to roll. So let's jump into the review of this. It has been raining here nonstop for the last week and a half, but I have the real Can-Am pulled up right next to the little one, and I'm gonna go over a couple of things that I absolutely love about this thing. To start out, the fact that it's an officially BRP licensed product makes it completely similar to the real one. So with the signature working fang lights, the LED headlights, it looks exactly the same as the Maverick. All the decals, all the emblems, all the details, everything looks exactly like the real thing. Now there's multiple different options available as far as colors go. So I ended up getting the Desert Tan since mine is the Desert Tan. Now side by side with the stock Can-Am X3, this looks exactly like the real deal. One of my favorite things is that the seats are leather with perforation. They're easy to wipe, they're adjustable, and the harnesses on them are actually pretty decent. Now even the back end has the signature taillights and that exhaust tip sticking out dead in the center, and the whole rear end is really shaped like the real Can-Am, which I really like. They even included the little license plate mount area. They really got the styling down, which I absolutely love. One of the things that I really want to point out is the actual tires. So these are rubber EVA foam tires. They're really soft, they're grippy, they're quiet. They're extremely quiet on the concrete or pavement. Definitely way better than the plastic stuff out there, and way better than the plastic stuff that we used to have as kids. As far as the interior goes, that is actually also very similar to the real deal. You got that start stop button right in the center, which you do in the real one. The steering wheel actually is identical to the factory Can-Am steering wheel, with the little cutout here and the shape of it, and even the gauge cluster, even though it's non-functioning, it is made to look exactly like the real one. Now here in the back, you also have this whole area is actually recessed inward, which is kind of nice because you can store stuff in here, mostly rocks or other things kids find. I like to store the remote and the charger in here when it's not in use. One of the coolest things is that it also has two 24-volt batteries, which is very uncommon for a ride-on toy to have multiple batteries, especially when it's a 24-volt ride-on, which this makes it really unique. And of course, the fact that it has a parent remote is absolutely great, because especially for someone like me, I have quite the age gap. I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. The 5-year-old could drive herself, the 2-year-old cannot yet. So in the end of it all, would I recommend this? Absolutely. I think it's awesome whether you have the real side-by-side or don't. This is still one of the coolest ride-ons out there right now. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you guys found this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Later.